Hello and welcome to a Path of Exile 2 video. My name is Exiled Vessel and I create content over the years for like various games that I've played, primarily like MMOs, raiding games, PoE in particular. For like been playing it for over 10 years now, which is kind of crazy. But Acolyte of the Chayula was the ascendancy when they teased it during the live announcement that interested me the most. And now that we have the full ascendancy reveal, I've kind of digested my thoughts and opinions on the Acolyte of Chayula. At this current time, this is all like speculation, theory, planning, etc. Information to take into the game if you want to pursue Acolyte of Chayula. So currently we do not know the small passive node effects. Some speculation is like chaos res, duration, chaos damage. There could even be like poison or something like that incorporated into the kit, or like mana leech or mana regen, energy shield stuff. Like, we don't know entirely what the small nodes will have. There's also the opportunity that these smaller nodes down here for all the darkness stuff specifically scales and works with darkness. There could be like percent increased darkness. There could be like some like spirit as darkness, or like some weird thing could exist down here. We simply just do not know. They did not tease any of this information. And basically, the way that I've viewed this as like a knee-jerk reaction is a lot of damage as chaos plays into a potential poison setup as a way to get damage on a supportive skill. If you play cold damage based monk but want to gain benefits from lightning damage, you could shock a boss with lightning damage and then poison on a cold damage skill, followed up by an even bigger, harder hitting freezing cold skill that does not inherently scale poison to the same degree as the other skill that would essentially scale the poison. You can flip all of these elements around. You could do a pure lightning based build and just have added chaos damage on top. The chaos damage will scale with the shock that you're applying to then be bigger amounts. Additionally, one thing that I did not write down here is wither and bell interaction. I can't remember if there was a like wither on hit support gem or not, but with wither on hit on bell could be very, very, very powerful to like maximize your potential chaos damage, and that is definitely like a go-to logical conclusion. I don't know if other people are like posting content about Acolyte of Chayula. I literally like saw the stuff last night, went to bed, went to work, and kind of just been sitting on this information all day, and kind of just been thinking about it, jotting down notes and stuff as I go about my day. But let's get into the very first node on the top here, 1, 2. So you need to get the first node to get the second node. Third, fourth are independent nodes. You can take them if you want. Fifth leads into sixth, and seventh leads into eighth and ninth. By all means, if you need to, pull up the ascendancy Chayula.jpg from the website and have a look at it yourself. I believe they stated at one point in time that there is one leech instant applied at all applicable times. Basically, you need a lot of like rapid hits and big hits in order to make this feel good and comfortable. So in PoE 1 currently, you can like kind of just hit as many times as you want, and those leech instances kind of like stack up into like total recovery threshold. And once that threshold's met, your leech is basically just static at that value until topped up, unless otherwise specified. Basically like the overleech mechanics. Mind over matter archetype, mana scaling, lightning damage works with attacks. All that sounds really, really good. This then plays into taking the extra lightning damage and applying it as chaos hit, implies poison potential, if not a main DPS, a supplementary DPS during burst phases. And obviously we don't know what like the base poison duration is, or if you can scale poison duration, etc. But if you have like if you apply a big shock and then you apply a big poison and then you do like a general like high DPS skill, especially if it's like power or frenzy charge spenders, and you don't just have to think stays with this, you can think bows, spells, anything really, even like crossbows and whatnot could potentially be really, really powerful, depending on how everything pans out. The only thing that I would say that definitely doesn't sound like this scales at all with would be minions, because minions aren't you, and this does not have any like you and allies tags, as well as like if you were to go darkness route, you wouldn't have any darkness. So in general, this mana leech is just really, really nice. This also plays into, I didn't write it down, but basically like trigger setups like cock. We don't know if there's going to be like trigger on kill effects or like the energy stuff, how any of that's going to really pan out, but basically you can still attack and use like spells as well, and this can be really, really powerful for that. So like cock archmage question mark, who knows. And then 2, consuming questions. You cannot recharge energy shield. Mana leech effects also recover energy shield. My theory on this is that CI bad, as you would enter a zone with 1 life and 0 ES, unless you do some weird mom CI interactions, which could be very powerful. I believe at one point in time they stated that CI, or sorry, your energy shield takes like double chaos damage, but chaos damage can no longer bypass energy shield. So I don't know if that's true or not, or maybe that was just like some weird parroted information that somebody else put out there. I did not see any quotes from GG myself, and we don't know, maybe it's changed since whenever that was initially rumored amongst the community, basically. But I do think like a mom CI setup would actually be potentially powerful with this. It would basically mean that you could walk into a map and be CI, have no ES, and still not die instantly. And then as you hit things, your leech would stack up and you would be more comfortable in the map. Obviously, that could be very sketchy on hardcore, and might not be the best use case. I think hybrid is just going to be better. If you've ever played Tricksters and Path of Exile, and you've ever done like non-end focused, so you just go like life base and maybe you have like a 500,000 ES buffer, and you basically just use that buffer against like big fizz hits and big Ellie hits, it could feel comfortable. Also, the other thing is Eldritch Battery. We don't know, or at least I don't know at the time of theory crafting, any implications of Eldritch Battery, Mind Over Matter, and Chaos Inoculation. We have no fucking idea, because I don't think they've actually spoiled what Eldritch Battery does in PoE 2. But typically Eldritch Battery is really bad with Chaos Inoculation, but it's good with Mind Over Matter. Who knows how this is going to pan out. If your Eldritch Battery protects your mana and you go Darkness, that would be a very, very bad mix. So I think Mind Over Matter on the Chayula Ascendancy here is going to be pretty good. And then Chayula's Gift, 10% maximum chaos resistance. Chaos resistance is doubled. We don't know what the minor nodes are, and if you were to like get some base chaos res through there, it would make getting chaos res as a suffix like not a requirement for a hybrid playstyle, which would ease up affixes, and any affix reduction is always a good quality of life. And additionally, we don't know if like Shavron's wrappings or an equivalent unique exists, letting you play into the hybrid life ES while maintaining a very high chaos res. And we don't know what weird uniques might exist in PoE 2 that can mitigate damage to chaos res. We saw Infernalists get 20% physical damage taken as chaos damage, which is not limited to hits specifically, and that makes dots less potent, potential room for self-poisonous shenanigans if it makes a return in PoE 2. I'm blanking on the name of the amulet, but there is like a self-poison playstyle in Path of Exile, and then you need the jewel, blanking on the jewel at this current time, but yeah, there's like some weird self-poisonous mechanics. And yeah, this also means that like Wither is like inherently just not that strong against you, and of course like some mobs are going to have like Wither. Curses like Despair and stuff are not going to be as strong on you as they would like an average player. So this is just general like quality of life. It could be really, really good early, and it could be really, really late, depending on like the type of build that you're building. So this could be something that you take early and then respec late, and it could also just be something that you take very, very late, like once you get specific uniques that really open up a playstyle for this to have a lot of mitigation while playing a hybrid life build. Reality rendering, we saw this in Trickster in Path of Exile originally, and then it was moved to a hidden ascendancy node found on the Forbidden Flesh and Forbidden Flames for the Shadow class. Basically, it's like a 7% chance to crit, so 13% chance to crit and 23% chance to crit for added as extra. That's basically how you can kind of understand this, and it boils down to around like, I believe the most accurate number is like 18 point whatever percentage, but basically like 15 to 20% depending on how lucky and unlucky you are. And this could open up even more poison base scaling because of like the magnitude and whatnot. Basically, if you hit really, really hard, it just inherently applies a poison, I guess, is what it kind of sounds like. We don't know all the ailment applications, so your general damage could just apply a pretty beefy poison if you took reality rending. So you basically have a 7% chance to like deal way more damage, and if you built like a couple of different poison nodes on tree, or if you had a weapon swap to a different stave, and on that weapon swap you took a lot of poison stuff and then applied a big poison and you got lucky with this node, this could open up the options to have like a weapon swapping high poison burst while doing your boss rotations. So yeah, this is all like general, I guess, like good quality of life. Basically, like if you couldn't fully invest into like either one of these and you really wanted to go with this is kind of just like your go-to, I think. Or if you just want to like invest into darkness and then pick it up, or invest into like this stuff and then pick it up, it's kind of just a flex node. But I think it's most optimal if you're not fully investing in either one of these two. You should just go this, the reality rendering, as like your last point. I think that's like a valid logical conclusion. And then here we have Waking Dream. Grant skill into the breach, creates a breach around you, allowing to see nearby flames of Chayula. You are considered to be in a breach while the skill is active, and it is considered a buff. I don't know how this impacts like what supports we can apply to into the breach here. And then collecting the flames, leech 7% of maximum life to you, leech 7% of maximum mana to you. If you take the instant mana leech, this also would apply to your ES, so then you gain 7% mana and ES. And then the Flame of Chayula provides a stacking buff. We don't know if this is like it resets the base duration. So like if you gain one stack and then you pick up another after like 4 seconds elapses, does this mean that your 2 second, you have a 2 buffs now and it then resets the total cooldown? Or is this going to work like Gilwin did in Path of Exile 1, where each instance has its own duration tag associated with it? We don't know. It doesn't really clarify it at all. My assumption, based off of seeing the other ascendancy with Galewind on it, the Deadeye, it basically clears up the whole confusion of like duration and stuff on that node. So I'm assuming the same thing applies to this, where if you pick up one and then 4 seconds later you pick up another, it refreshes the entire duration for both. I believe that's how it will work, but we will have to play it to figure it out. And then the 6th node here, which is directly behind it, effect and duration of Flames of Chayula on you is doubled. So instead of 7%, you gain 14% of all of these buffs. And we don't know what the small nodes are, and maybe the small node behind this gives you like increased effect as well, or increased duration, or like improved quality to into the breach. We have no idea what the minor passive nodes are. And my thoughts on this is very potent for recovery effects as a whole, as well as damage potential. This basically is just Trickster Recovery XD and big poison nukes potentially. In the showcase, loop alert on the skill bar, so uncertain if into the breach is a skill, persistent one, or a toggle potentially with a draining mana cost. I have a link here. I'm not going to play the video, but I did go back and make sure I validated my thoughts and opinions on this, but we don't have any concrete answer as to like, is this a skill that you have to press? If it is, it could make some players who have like button anxiety go like, oh, this is too many buttons. Like a lot of these ascendancies, you have to press extra buttons in order to get benefits out of them. If it's just toggle, it makes more sense if it's just a toggle, and like maybe it drains your mana at a cost that would play into the whole ascendancy as a whole. So who knows? And the other implications is like, could you have multiple monks using this? Can other people in your party without the skill allocated pick up the buffs and benefit from the buffs? Who knows? And if you double the effects, there's up to 140% total damage as extra chaos. We don't know if there's elemental damage chaos on tree, but we have seen other reveals for other damage types gaining as like benefits. We don't know how these damages extra modifiers stack up in the end in comparison to Path of Exile, so it's purely speculation and curiosity, but essentially big poison potential. And if you have like a wither on hit bell, big damage through that as well. Who knows, maybe your bell could be a high applicator for poison. Who knows? The buff states you're considered to be in a breach. As far as we know, breach rings no longer grant double stats if in a breach, but there may be other breach uniques that do. And I have a link to the video that shows this. So if you want to fact check it, both of these things are in the video. We don't know the best support gems for the duration scaling, cooldown recovery, maybe even area effect, or faster casting could improve it, as well as increased levels. It could be a thing where the internal cooldown of like spawning the, I'm just gonna call it a chime. I know it's flames, but like when I saw this, I just thought like, oh, bard, because like they keep making a lot of like minor league references, like the crossbow is basically just gen, like you fire 4 shots and then you have to reload. So I just immediately associate it with gen from League, and same thing here with this is just bard with chimes. It's just like you pick them up and then you do more damage. So yeah, it's just kind of I don't know, weird dumb thought process. But yeah, I don't know if like faster casting or like area of effect could like increase the area that it spawns in. In the video they also showed like a pickup radius, and the pickup radius is kind of similar to how like the new loot drop rate works, where it's like you don't have to be standing on it, but you definitely need to be standing near it, and then it kind of just like vacuums up into you. So like if you've ever picked up gold in Path of Exile 1, or if you've alpha tested or whatever tested in PoE 2, it looks to be about the same range as like picking up gold, for example. So you don't need to be like on it, but it could spawn in like some weird quirky walls, and I'm sure there's going to be bugs associated with it spawning in areas that like are unobtainable. And we also don't know how long they persist on the map itself. So like could you like go into a boss arena, spawn it, not move or anything, and then like spawn it again, not move or anything? Like how long do these things actually persist on the floor? And then the other thing is like quality and gem levels. Like obviously probably as you level up the gem itself, it would, or like use empower with it, or get like plus levels of like skills and stuff, that could have a drastic impact on the like ramping time, because like in PoE like skill levels matter a lot. So it'd be interesting to see how that pans out in the end game. And then Embrace the Darkness, this is the remove your spirit, and then you get a base maximum of darkness. Basically how I view this is Envy from PoE 1 and Ward from PoE 1 coming back in a weird quirky way. This is defensive, especially for mom builds, because mana will protect your life. So you would take hit from your mana pool before your life pool, and then after your mana hits 0, you would then start taking damage on your life. But instead of taking damage on your life, you're going to take damage on your spirit. So Mana Flask still is like incredibly 100% like valid and potent on Monk, even with Mom, Insta Leech, and Darkness, because you just don't want your Darkness to get touched. Darkness getting touched is bad. But at the same sense, this is like incredibly like one-shot potential, like defensive oriented, while still giving you some damage as a result. So that's kind of why I call it like Ward and Envy mixture, because Envy is basically an aura in PoE 1 that reserves your mana, but if you were to compare it into PoE 2, it would reserve spirit, and it gives you bonus chaos damage scaling. So it's kind of just like a reworked quirky interaction way of that. and we don't know if like the small passive nodes give a buff to your total darkness, and there's 3 small passives that lead into all these nodes of Grasp the Void and Inner Silence here. So if like each one has like 20% increase of like your total darkness at level 100, this would mean that you would have 960 total darkness, which is a lot. It would give you 48% increased or 48% added as extra. So this could be something that like a lot of people, they don't take early, but they do take very late game, because Spirit, as you're like playing through the campaign, you're going to unlock more of it, and then you can immediately start using and utilizing different like buffs and auras. So I think for like a league start, this might not be the greatest option, but then like at the end of a campaign run, maybe it does open up to become an option. Obviously you need to solve things like accuracy, like other QOL stuff. You wouldn't have access to like Herald of Thunder, which basically like if you shock an enemy, it gives you like added or gains damage based off of like lightning or something, and then yeah, you can do all sorts of like weird quirky stuff with it. So I don't know if this is necessarily going to be best in slot, but it does have some potential to be very, very good. Yeah, and there could be uniques. We also don't know if like you have a support character in your party, this could be way better. This could, because if your supports can reserve their spirit and you can still gain those buffs, like this is obviously like a go-to answer of like, I don't need these auras anymore, my support provides it, I just take Embrace the Darkness and now I deal like bonus damage. And then Grasping the Void, this is how you get damage out of darkness. Basically you can expect anywhere from like, honestly, like at the very, very beginning, probably like 5 to 10%, because you're going to be getting hit a lot. And then as like later on in levels, like roughly 20 to 30%. So it's kind of similar to the 4th node, the one that's like RNG slot machine of like, do you get chaos damage or not? But yeah, it could be good, especially if like you stun a boss while dodging mechanics, then obviously your darkness hasn't been touched. And then we did see in a gameplay video, I'm not going to link it here because it's like a 4-hour long video and I don't want to just like go digging through it, but there is Wind Dancer on the tree, and it's very close to the monk start, so like you can get Wind Dancer by like level 30 or something, but very easily. And the big thing with Wind Dancer with evasion builds is that it when you get hit, it'll reduce that initial hit by 20%, at least in Path of Exile 1, and then afterwards it makes you, I think, take more physical damage from hits, but it also like boosts your evasion rating. Some weird quirky interactions. I've used it before, but I can't remember exactly like the whole thought process behind it. I have like the general understanding of like the idea behind Wind Dancer, but it can be fully reworked in PoE2, much like Mind Over Matter and like a bunch of other keystones that we've seen that have transferred over from Path of Exile into PoE2. But I could see it being really, really good on like an evasion focused darkness scaling monk, playing into like Mind Over Matter and stuff like that. Could see it being really, really powerful as a defensive tool to help mitigate some of that damage so that your darkness doesn't get touched. And then Inner Silence, this really leans into getting hit, not being as punishing, and will just alleviate the defensive aspect of darkness even higher. I do wish this node gave like some added benefits, like plus 100 maximum darkness on it, or convert spirit on equipment to darkness, or something else to really scale the darkness would be really, 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 really good. Even if it meant that like instead of 50%, like maybe they just do like some weird quirky integer of like, I don't know, 27% reduced darkness preservation duration. Like just do something quirky and then give us like some quirky like maximum darkness to like really bleed into like this whole like chaos, random weird numerical values to the average person. Like I think that would be funny and quirky and definitely up the Acolytes. I guess cards. So yeah, this is kind of just where I'm at with the Acolyte of Chayula and where I'm at with PoE 2. I plan to play hardcore, and I plan on league starting an Acolyte, and I do not know what skills I'm going to use. If I'm going to go melee, if I'm going to go staves, if I'm going to go bonks, if I'm going to go whatever, it's entirely like I have no idea. I could go bows because bows seem really fucking powerful. Who knows? Spellcasting also sounds fun. The only thing that I wouldn't recommend you try is to make a Acolyte of Chayula minion build. I don't think that would pan out in your favor at all. I think that would be a really rough league start. So anyways, the last thing I'm going to say is that expect everybody to kind of have like scuffed builds. So like if you're playing your build and you're just like, this is just not it, feel free to just like throw it in the bin, throw it in the trash, restart over, play a different character, and just put another hat in the ring, because currently Grinding Gear Games is just holding a lot of the cards close to their chest. They don't want information to leak out, despite the beta testers and despite Effectual Life literally leaking ascendancy nodes and shit like that on their website. Like, fuck them. I personally think that they should be like completely banned from like Grinding Gears, like, I don't know, like people that they work with or whatever. And 100% I think that Grinding Gear Games should sue FX Life. They broke NDA very clearly. They've been posting guides and stuff and then like hiding it on their website, like absolutely like the scummiest shit. They definitely data mined the client that they were given. Like all of that is a breach of NDA. And yeah, I just absolute scumlords. But despite all the like drama and debacles going on, just play the game and have fun. I'm going radio silent on League launch. I'm gonna be AFK in a stream with like it muted so that I get like any drops and whatnot. But other than that, I don't want anyone else to spoil my experience. And then after that, once I hit maps, I'll probably end up doing a video on my current character at the time. If I survive hardcore, then it'll be in the video. If I die, then I'll just keep playing the same character on softcore. You can always make another character on hardcore and then rip your items into your softcore trade league. So if I die, I die, whatever. As far as like any of the other controversial things right now, like the pausing and logouts and all that stuff, like I genuinely don't care. Like sometimes when you're playing games, like you gotta like stretch, you gotta eat, you gotta do whatever. So I just think being able to pause while playing is kind of a nice quality of life. A lot of other games that are of higher quality caliber do this kind of stuff, and I'm glad that Grinding Gear Games is like taking a step in that direction, because it does open up the game to be more casual friendly. I don't care if it's the cost of like some hardcore enthusiast, like I want the most brutal punishing, then just don't pause the game. Like if you pause the game and log out, like that's on you. Like, you know, and nobody ever like pointed a gun towards your head and said like you have to use logout macros. Like I never use logout macros. I always just hit escape and then exit. Like that's how I've always played PoE. I played hardcore up until Breach League, and then after Breach League I was like all this buggy ashes being behind the breach, and then spheres and shit shocking you, and then splatter, there goes your life because you can't see anything, or like Toll like invisibly blizzards you and like face first, like point blank range, but you can't see them at all. And then like then the textures load after you're dead. Like because of all that stuff, like I quit hardcore. I've only ever played it during Bestiary League, Gauntlets, some other random leagues here and there that I've tried it after playing in SSF. So yeah, hardcore is, it's just inherently just, it's becoming less and less of a thing in Path of Exile 1. I'd be curious of where it ends up landing in PoE 2. I'm an enjoyer of raid-based games, so by all means, like, bring on all the hardest difficulty bossing content. Like, I enjoy doing it deathless, and I enjoy the thought of having a hardcore character that lives to like level 100 in a very bossing focused game. Like that really actually does entice me. I genuinely like it. Sure, will I pause the game and like go pet a dog or whatever? Yeah, hell yeah, I'll do that. Like, are you fucking crazy? I'll pause the game and go pick up my food from the door or make a steak or whatever. Like, I don't give a shit. I'll pause the game and look at the passive tree for 16 minutes and then forget that I paused the screen, come back, and then get splattered by a boss. Like, I don't fucking care. I think that's fine. I genuinely don't think it's a bad thing. I get why people are upset, but for me, it's whatever. Like, pause the game, go take a piss, or stand up and stretch. Like, quit being so salty. Like, that's my thought process. Anyways, have a good league start, and I hope any of this information kind of helped you figure out what you want to do with your Chalupa. Anyways, see ya in the league launch. Peace.